I'm glad you brought up WCW. So you know what I'm going to say next, right?
Are you going to talk about Monday Night War?
Yeah.
Okay.
I I is it just me? Like, am I crazy? The whole Monday Night War series has just been, and here's something else WWF did that was wonderful, and here's something else that WWF did. Look at all these great things that WWF did. Wow, WWF's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, I've seen bits and pieces of a lot of these. I'm not going to claim that I've watched every single second of them, but from what I see, you are absolutely correct. And it's funny how in the storylines WWE spits all this thing about Russian propaganda with Lana and Rusev, and I feel like this whole series is just WWE propaganda against WCW.
But the thing is, they own WCW, and WCW, I mean, like, the authentic WCW is gone, and they own WCW. Like, I get that they won the war. That's why we're watching WWE right now and not WCW. But there's
You
no...
would think that now is the time to actually, now that it's long over, and you have all this WCW content on the network that you want people to watch, now is the time to actually pump up WCW.
Right, but not only that, but when you're gonna go back and tell me, because I've been seeing that soundbite of Joel Briscoe for years saying, it wasn't just our jobs, it was our lives, and then they have Triple H saying something like, it wasn't like, oh, if it doesn't work out, oh, just start again tomorrow. If it didn't work out, we were all losing our jobs, or something like that, or we were going out of business.
Yeah,
And
that one.
so you make it sound like WCW was this massive superpower in the sports entertainment industry that was going to completely put WWF out of business, and it was this juggernaut that could not be stopped. But then your show is just all about what WWF did in that era, and then WCW is this mention once in a while, and pretty much they'll blip these, oh, and the WCW made this stupid mistake, we won. And it's like, well, if you're going to make it sound like WCW was this incompetent, clown college where nothing was going right, and the thing was a crap show from the beginning, that how are you going to tell me that they almost put you out of business if their product was unwatchable and stupid from day one?
This is like the classic feuding 101 when you have a guy and he's really strong and you don't bury your opponent. You build your opponent up so that way it makes you look good when you defeat him.
Right. And
that's how they should be booking this series.
Right. And in this case, it isn't even like they're doing anything like that. They're just not even talking about WCW. Every show is almost like WWF. Here's all about Degeneration X, and then once in a while, and WCW had this going on at the time. But Degeneration X had all these guys and it's like next week, Mick Foley did all this stuff, blah blah blah, and then it's like, oh yeah, and then the thing, and like Denny said a few weeks ago when they had the Mick Foley episode, they failed to mention that the night that Mick Foley won the title was also the night that WCW did the finger poke of doom.
Yes.
Which is infamously synonymous with pretty much the beginning of the end of WCW.
Right, exactly. Those are the things you should be talking about. That makes sense. And if, like, at this point, if you're going to go with the format of what they're doing of just basically talking about a entity, like a superstar or a group, how has the Goldberg episode not been on yet?
Right. No, nothing about Goldberg. And you know what? Frankly, I think I said this in a show a while ago. The two main stars that WCW built, that WCW legitimately built from the ground up, were Diamond Dallas Page and Bill Goldberg.
Right.
Those guys were massively over, and they were, and you could, and of course Sting, but he was already established in WCW by that time. But still, if you want to say those are your three WCW guys that are like, were massively over, and at that time were never in WWF or WWE, and they at the very least they all deserve a show. There's probably
and now that you have Sting under contract, where's something about him?
Right, and
like he should have a huge special.
Right, and I'm sure you can come up with various different episodes for this, but even just to make an episode and say, here's all the really, really horribly stupid things WCW did, and just show an hour of stupid WCW things. Just show the finger poke of doom. Show Vince Russo coming in and doing these whacked out things. Show them stripping all of the wrestlers of the titles and just saying we're starting over. Show the Hulk Hogan bash at the beach debacle from 2000 when he pinned Jeff Jarrett and then marched out. Like, you could show all these things and be like, here's all the mistakes WCW made at that time. At least you're including WCW. Like, I haven't seen WCW in a long time, other than going back and seeing things. And to see wrestlers reflect on it, both guys that were in WCW and guys from WWE, because back in that time it was somewhat taboo to talk about another company. I mean, they started having to do that because it was the Attitude Era and they were firing all the shots they could. But to have, like, let's say Triple H saying like we had our monitor on in the back and we were watching this and we just buried our faces in our hands and said, "What the hell are they doing?" Like, that would be interesting to me, and to just gloss over that and just be like, and then Bret Hart did this, but then he went to WCW and the whole business, and it's like, and then this happened, and this happened. It gets maddening.
Absolutely. At this point, the only way to save it really is if you do like 5 straight episodes on this. Okay, now this is from the the WCW perspective,
Right.
instead of like, because they've done so many on WWF by this point.
Right.
Now you show the Goldberg and the DDP and the Sting and yada yada yada.
Exactly.
But I doubt they're going to do that.
I mean, it's possible, but then again, like, but why wouldn't you show it either chronologically or interchange it a bit so that 1 week's WCW, 1 week's WWF, 1 week's WCW, like
absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Because thus far, I mean, the series has pretty much been exclusively a documentary series about various different components of WWF from 1994 to 2001.
Right, with the exception of the NWO show they had.
Right.
Episode, excuse me.
And
I don't know.
Yeah, it was the exception of that and of the inaugural episode of the series, which was about Nitro being created.
Yeah, and that was the perfect episode where it seemed like that was going to really launch the series into what it should have been, where, yeah, a lot of it was like, it was quote unquote about Nitro being created, but really it was definitely side by side of, okay, here's how WWF was reacting to this, and here's what WCW how they reacted to them, and they played off of each other, and that's the way these episodes should be.
Right.
Is both of them being represented.
So obviously,
that's kind of a shame.
Yeah, someone isn't getting this memo, and I'm guessing they produced these all a long time ago, so it's not even worth like complaining about.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
But it's just, come on.